wanted to have told a story at a story slam in the past. So I'm gonna have to go through this right now to get to that point. But I think I'd like to take this out. Okay. So I was 18. I was a freshman at NYU, and I was coming back from Boston to New York City after Thanksgiving break. I took the 4-hour bus ride back, and of course I procrastinated a bunch of work and left it to after the break, and so I got back, and a friend of mine named Helen and we used to go into the dorm library, and we would do our homework all night and, you know, chat and procrastinate and get it all done, but we would pull tons of all-nighters, and so it was one of those, and 2 o'clock in the morning rolled around, and we wanted to get our slice of pizza that we would use to kind of like push things off and procrastinate more, and so we walked over to Ben's Pizza, and we were sitting there and eating our second slice, and the freshman 15 is a real thing. And a French guy walked in. So we were 18, he was 23. His name was Louis, but I didn't know that until much later. And he walks in, and he's had a few drinks. He seems to have been out kind of all night. And we're kind of looking for something to delay, and so we start chatting him up, and he's like, what is there to do in New York? You know, it's Sunday night, and it's 2 in the morning, and everything is closed, and Paris is so much better, and all this stuff. And so we're like, all right, dude, like, relax, you know? And so we start talking to him, and he's talking about Paris, and we're like, all right, if Paris is so great, you know, like, why don't you show us? And he keeps being like, yeah, you know, I will show you the streets and the people and the night and the clubs and the food. And we're like, yeah, like, totally, you're gonna show us. And so we're on our third slice of pizza, and we're kind of chatting him up, and finally we're like, all right, we can't procrastinate anymore, we gotta go back to the dorm. And so we're heading back, and he's like, wait, I'm going to come with you and get the tickets to Paris. I have my flight. It's at 5 p.m. on Monday. It's Sunday night right now. So we're like, all right, let's like keep this going because we don't really feel like doing our paper. So he comes back to the dorm. And at this point, we're kind of like, not really sure what's going on, but we're fairly certain it's all a joke. So he pulls up the computer, and he starts like pulling up the flights, and we're sort of like, what the hell is going on right now? Like, is this guy serious? So he pulls up the flight, and he's like, this is my flight, two up here for the two of you, and you ready? I'm going to buy. And we're like, oh my God, this guy is serious right now. He's like a literal crazy person. But we're 18, and we're reckless, and we really don't feel like doing our paper. And so I'm like, Helen, should we go to Paris right now? And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh my God. And then we're like, yes! And so we're like, all right, dude, buy it. And we literally both blacked out. Like, it was a very foolish thing to do. So he buys the tickets, and we're suddenly like back in reality, like, holy shit, what's happening? And this whole slew of things starts to rush in. So what do we have to do now? We're going to Paris in like a few hours. That's when I realized my passport is in Boston. So I'm like, oh, fuck. So I'm like, my passport's in Boston, and this guy, this crazy guy, is like, well, we get on the train, we go back, we get your passport, we make it back in time, we get on the flight, we go to Paris, everything is... So I'm like, all right. Like, at this point, like, balls to the wall, I'm going for it. So I'm like, Helen, my bag is still packed from Boston. It's in my room. This guy, what's your name? And he's like, Louis. And I'm like, okay, Louis and I are gonna get on the train. We're gonna go back to Boston. We're gonna get my passport, yada, yada. So she's like, okay. So this guy and I go to the train station. I'm starting to like come to, everything in the light of day is getting like kind of scary. We're on the train, and I realize like my dad has my passport, and I don't even know where it is. So I call my dad, and I catch him at the perfect moment where he's like flustered, getting ready to go to work. And I'm like, Dad, I need my passport. Mom needs my passport. My parents are divorced. I'm like, Mom needs my passport. She needs me to put it in the mailbox. And so he's like, all right, I gotta go. And he puts it in the mailbox. He calls me back like half an hour later driving to work, and he's like, wait, why did I just put your passport in the mailbox? I'm like, don't worry about it, bye, and I hang up. So we get back to Boston. We are cutting it to the wire now. Okay, so we get back to Boston, we go to my house, I run, grab it out of the mailbox, jump back in the cab, we get back, we hop on the train, we go straight back, so now this is my third train ride in literally 12 hours to and from Boston. Helen is now like in the light of day, people are like coming, like waking up and telling her she's a literal crazy person, she can't do this, she's bailing. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going for it. So we get back, I get to the airport, I'm like kind of freaked out, but I'm just refusing to think about it. Helen is at the airport with my bag, her bag. We get on the plane, we go to Paris. We ended up having an incredible 5 days. We got wined and dined, we smoked cigarettes inside, we drank limoncello. It was an incredible trip, and I ended up dating him for a year and a half. He moved back to New York after that. He was my first boyfriend. And so the point is, all's well that ends well. It was a very foolish thing to do. I didn't tell my parents until like 2 years later. But it worked out in the end.